sorry, I'm late. I can't believe I'm late for like my own event. That's pretty bad. I'm sorry about that. And I'm still actually not 100% really ready, but I just had to do this. Oh, hi, howdy. Okay. Oh, I have a light. Let me get that set up. How's that? A little bit better. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited. I haven't done a live in a while. I forgot how awkward they are. I'm so bad at these. There's a reason I don't go live very often. I have my microphone set up. I hope y'all can hear me. Please give me a shout if there's an issue with the microphone. Oop, I muted myself. That's not what I wanted to do. Okay. The funny thing was when I was scheduling this, I was like, all right, Nora, like, it's Friday, you're gonna be like rushing. And I was like, 5 will be plenty of time. And I just got back from the gym, which is why I'm like kind of in a frazzled rush here. But yeah, I went to the gym at like 3. I don't understand how it takes me so long to go to the gym. I don't get it. My workouts aren't that long. Anyway, welcome. So I decided I want to do this live because I was really excited to celebrate 1,000 subscribers because it's a really big deal. And I'm actually not at 1,000 yet. I thought maybe I would be by the time this went live, but I'm really close. And so, good enough. It rounds. I am an astronomer. So order of magnitude, we call it good. And actually, in case you are wondering, so some of you may know, sorry, my hair. Some of you may know that 1,000 subscribers is like the threshold to become a monetized channel. So if you think I'm like being very crass and celebrating the fact that I'm going to make money, I'm actually not, because that's only one of the criteria. And I definitely do not have anywhere near enough watch hours to become monetized. So this is not about making money. I'm just really excited because it is a lot of work to build a YouTube channel. If you are a YouTuber, and it's a fun milestone. And it's really nice to, I don't know, the idea of having 1,000 people that are interested in space and astronomy, and not only space and astronomy, but like my take on space and astronomy is really exciting for me as a scientist and as a science communicator and as a YouTuber. So I did say this is going to be a happy hour. So I want to make a drink, but I didn't get everything set up. So I will be right back because I can't move my laptop right now. One sec. Now I am going to make a gin drink because I like gin. But if you are underage or if you prefer not to drink for any reason whatsoever, you can make this cocktail without gin. It will just be a delicious fizzy drink. And also, fair warning, I kind of made this up myself and I'm not a bartender, so I don't know how it's going to be, but we're going to see. So I know with gin, people traditionally think tonic, right? Gin and tonic, but I actually do not like tonic. People who know me in real life are probably so sick of hearing me say this, but I thought for a long time that I did not like gin when it turns out that what I didn't like was tonic, and I only ever had gin and gin and tonics. And so once I discovered gin and club, I never went back. Okay. And there's going to be some blueberries in this because I thought blueberries would make it like spacey. I don't know why, because they're like the color of space, kind of. Well, actually, the color of space is cosmic latte, but like the color of the night sky. And I need a lime and some ice. And a muddler. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. All right, so I said blueberries for the spaciness and because blueberries are delicious and very summery. And lime because lime is delicious and goes well in cocktails. And I want a lot of lime here, so I'm actually gonna squeeze my lime and not just put it on there. And I'm weak and can't squeeze limes without this. Also, this is gonna spray all over my computer, so I'm gonna do this over here. Okay. Got a nice bit of lime juice there. That was half a lime. Like I said, I am not a bartender. This is not exact. I don't know if this is even going to turn out. Find out with me. Then the other thing I wanted to do was muddle the blueberries. And I used to actually have a cocktail muddler. And I lost it a couple years ago. And I haven't really needed it because I don't, despite how it may seem, don't actually drink that often. And I was actually going to buy a new muddler for this today. And they were sold out at Target. The Target that is in my neighborhood is like one of those very tiny city Targets. So they are often sold out of things if they even carry them in the first place. Although I did check that they actually did carry it. They just happened to be sold out. Anyway, while I'm doing this, if y'all have any questions for me, what do you want to know? Do you want to chat about astrophysics, about the news, about life? Tell me what's going on with you. I don't really have a plan for this, so all right. And since I don't have a muddler, I have to improvise. And I thought maybe my ice cream scoop would work. I'm a mess, y'all. I'm a mess. Okay. Although I guess the question is, which side of it should I try using? I think this side, right? Just gonna muddle. Of course, I just got blueberry juice on my white leggings. I really thought this through. Muddle. Okay, there we go. Ooh, it's very limey. I don't know what I expected. There's half a lime in there. Okay, so now we got lime juice, blueberries. Should you do the gin first or the club? I don't know. I was actually out of gin, which is kind of unusual for me because it takes me literally, I have bottles of alcohol that I've had for like 10 years. I just don't drink much, especially not at home. Okay. I do have a jigger. No muddler, but I have a jigger. I guess we'll do, I don't know, 3/4 of an ounce. Again, gin, totally optional if you aren't into that or cannot drink that. All right, and it's a nice club. I love making gin drinks with like flavored like waters, like LaCroix. But in this case, I'm going true club soda. Yes, I did defend my PhD recently. So am I a doctor yet? Technically, no, because I have not received my diploma, which I will do at my university's graduation, or as they say, convocation, which is next weekend, June 4th. It's a little bit late. A lot of colleges have already had theirs. However, the defense of my thesis was the thing that qualified me to finish my PhD. And it's kind of traditional that at the end of your defense, your committee comes out. I'm just putting some ice cubes in here, by the way. Your committee comes out and they will, after they deliberate, while you're just sitting there in the hallway, they come out and they say, "Congratulations, doctor." And it's like, it's a thing. So I have met all of the requirements. It's literally just waiting for like the official document. But I certainly feel free to call myself Dr. Nora at this point. Yeah, which is really exciting. I don't really go by my last name a lot, so like I find I'm referring to myself more as like Dr. Nora than as Dr. Bailey, which to me is my dad. um, but I know some people think trying to like think how to phrase this. There's like a tendency to assume that women are more comfortable with people using their first name than you would assume with a man. So I don't want you to think that every woman is going to have the same preference just because I do. So don't go around calling people doctor whatever by their first name unless you know that's what they want. Otherwise, it's appropriate to do doctor last name. All right, here's my starry night drink. I'm calling it. Ooh, that's good. I'm not surprised. I liked all the things that went into it. So why would I not like the final result? So now that I'm finishing up with grad school, so next week is my last week and I don't really have much work left to do because all of my projects are finished up. I have my very last paper is just sitting with the referee because I already fixed all of their comments and sent it back. So I really don't have like any like work to do. My advisor did ask me to write up some of my code packages that I use because I've written a lot of code, but all of it is just for my own personal use. I don't write like public packages, which a lot of people do. I technically have a GitHub page, but there's like nothing on it. I just used it for class once. So he wanted just to have a little bit of documentation on that so that he could maybe pass it on to a future student. And so they wouldn't have to like start from scratch. They needed some of the similar things, especially because I do all of my coding in Python, whereas my advisor doesn't really do Python. He still does IDL. So, which is funny because like he's not that much older than me because I did my undergrad. I graduated in 2009, so I'm like a pretty old grad student. So it's funny that we have this like generational gap as far as like coding languages, just because academically I'm behind him by that much. But but yes, I still have that to do, but that's like pretty much it. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have all this like much more free time because I don't have a job yet, which is great. And I was like, I'm gonna have more time to spend on my channel. And I'm really excited because I had to, as I was doing like finishing up my thesis and getting ready for my defense and like everything, I had to kind of postpone. That's not the word I want. I had to suspend. Yeah, that's probably a better word. I had to suspend doing the Science Monday videos, which I really love to do, but like it just, took too much time. And so now I'm really excited because I can do them again. But also I somehow feel like I still don't have any extra time. Like I should be having all this extra time, but I don't feel like I do. But partly that is just because like I was on vacation and I got back late Monday night, like 10 p.m. Monday night. And like, I feel like I'm still just catching up from that. And hopefully starting next week, I'll have more time. So I'm not guaranteeing a video for next Monday, but hopefully the Monday after that, fingers crossed. Serbia, I love it. Tuning in from very far away. Welcome. Thank you so much. I love doing the space news. And it was like one of the like main things I wanted to do when I started my channel. And I love doing it, but I did not realize how much work I was setting myself up for. As I spit, sorry. Yeah, I've basically for the entire like last year of my PhD have been taking every Thursday off to make those videos. I didn't like tell my advisor that. So if you're watching this, Dan, sorry. I've not really been working 100%. But I still got done everything I needed to get done. So that's one thing I liked about grad school. It was very much productivity based and hour based. Before I went to grad school, I was a consultant and I had to bill hours and I hated it. I hated it so much. It was all about time and not about how much I was getting done. I don't like that. I like being judged on my output. I do not have a position lined up. So I am not staying in academia. I decided not to continue on with research. So I'm not doing a postdoc. And that's not because I have had bad experiences or because I don't like doing research. In fact, I love doing research and I'm really going to miss it. I was telling my boyfriend the other day, I was like, can I just keep doing research like on my own if I'm not in academia anymore? And he was like, why would you do that? And I was like, because I like it. But like just looking forward and seeing like professors and like what they do in their day-to-day job, I just didn't see myself wanting to do that. And it's also incredibly competitive. So like I it didn't make sense to like try and put myself into this super competitive field that I didn't even really want that much. So I decided it was best to step out now rather than after a postdoc, just so I can find the next phase for me. Especially because, like I said, I'm a bit of an older grad student. I am in my mid 30s now. You know, I'm not some young 20 something out here. But as far as what I am hoping to do, I want to do science communication because obviously I love it. I've been spending, 10 to 20 hours a week on it for the last year and a half, just basically for fun and to help build up my resume. And so I would really love to get paid for it. That would be ideal. I have found a couple positions that I think would be a good fit. So far, I haven't gotten any of them, but I have some applications out now, and I'm just keeping an eye out for positions that I think will be a good fit. I mean, I have savings, and my partner works, so we're not like going to be out on the street once I get my last paycheck, which will be at the end of June. I feel like this needed a scooch more gin, just a scooch. Although that also could be because I put the gin in and then the club and I didn't mix it. I told you I'm not a bartender. Nor am I a particularly smart person. Hey, Deepak. So I don't know if any of you noticed in my latest video that I have a little bit of a new accessory. I just realized that I just called him my boyfriend, but he's not. He's my fiance. So that happened on vacation. So yeah, I'm still getting used to that whole idea. But it's out in the world now. So it matches my shirt. Thank you so much. I am really happy to have it. I would say to be done with it, but I'm a little sad to be done with it, to be honest. I really liked grad school. I really liked getting my PhD. I feel like I hear so many horror stories, even from some of the people in my own program, and I feel bad and I want things to be better for everybody, but I personally had a really great experience and loved it. Loved doing research, loved the lifestyle I was able to live. We got a totally livable stipend, and so I haven't been, surviving on ramen or anything like that. And like I said, I really did not like the job I had before coming to grad school. So sorry if anyone from my former team is watching this, but I don't think it was a surprise that was a boring job and I did not like it. What I did like about it was that it was in San Diego, and I really miss San Diego. I lived there for 6 years, and Chicago is great. I love Chicago, but it's not quite San Diego. We actually, on our trip, we drove the Coast Highway, the Highway 1 in California, which was absolutely amazing. I saw redwoods for the first time, just beautiful, beautiful views. Like every second, like you're driving and it's like, this is insane. Plus, it was like really fun to drive. It's like all these twists and turns. I felt like I was like some race car driver, like in a car commercial or something. And yeah, drove all the way down the coast, and then we finished in San Diego and spent a few days there. And I was really excited because I got to show my fiance all the places that I loved. Well, not all. We didn't even get close to all of the places I liked, but many of the places that I loved in San Diego, including a lot of good food because I love to eat. So that was like really exciting. I went to like my favorite burrito place, which was like in a random strip mall in University Heights. Ooh, you're in high school. That's pretty cool. Well, I think you have a really long way to go, and there's certainly a lot of room to change your mind in there if you find something else. I don't think that what I thought I wanted to do in high school has zero bearing on what I actually wanted to do. So definitely keep an open mind, I would say. But if you do end up doing theoretical physics or astrophysics, that's really awesome. I think it's a really fun field, and I think it's really exciting. I think especially for me with astrophysics, I think it's like a gateway science. Like it gets people really excited in science because like it's just got some really cool concepts that are like really foundational to what it is to be human, right? Like what is the universe? Where does it come from? Are we alone? Like how does the earth fit in the scheme of things? And so I think like it's a really great way to get people interested in science. And that to me is one of my favorite things about it. But also all of those questions are my favorite thing about it. And I am a theorist. And so I absolutely love that aspect of it. I love just like being able to come up with something new. I mean, something tinily new. Tinily new? Is that a, can you say? But you know what I mean? Like some really, even though it's really, really tiny, it's still something new and just for my brain. And, you know, all of the brains of people that came before me that whose work I'm building on. But to me, that's really exciting. And I'm absolutely rubbish at doing anything practical. So I cannot observe through telescopes or write useful software packages or make instruments. So I'm really stuck just doing calculus, but I love it. Who am I inspired by? That's a great question. I feel like I know a lot of people had like really formative experiences, like watching, you know, Carl Sagan, or maybe for the younger folks, Neil deGrasse Tyson, you know, Bill Nye, like these people. And I mean, yes, like I did have some of those, but like it wasn't like a single thing that I was like, oh, this person, like I want to do what they do. I just always thought space was cool. I don't know. I don't have any like thing that I can pinpoint like why I thought that. It's like how kids think dinosaurs are cool. Like everybody, well, not everybody, but most people think dinosaurs are cool when they're kids. I think most people think space is cool when they're kids, and I was one of those people, and I somehow ended up studying it. But I am inspired by people. It's just not like in that like kind of flashpoint type way. I'm inspired a lot by women that have come in before me in this field because it was very difficult for them, and they really paved the way for me to have such a good experience. And hopefully, not a perfect experience, but a very good experience. And hopefully, I can do that for the younger women that are coming up behind me. So that would be like Margaret Burbidge, Vera Rubin, Margaret Mitchell, just yeah, some really awesome female astronomers that had to fight so hard to get taken seriously, which is such a shame. But I'm very glad they did it. Oh, that's so sweet. I am so glad that you were inspired by your mom and dad. I think it is really great to have that kind of role models in your life. I am also very inspired by my dad. He has a PhD, so he is also Dr. Bailey. His is not in physics, it's in philosophy. But also my dad was not a traditional student, so he started his undergrad in his late 20s. He started grad school when he was 30, which is also the year he had me, and I'm the youngest of 5. So raising a very large family while he was in grad school, and ended up getting his PhD around the time he was 40. So to me, that was very inspiring and helped me forge my own path as a non-traditional student. I think Marie Curie is an absolutely amazing historical figure and is very inspiring. I think that's great. Neil deGrasse Tyson, I think he did a really good job with the new Cosmos show. And I think he has served well in many ways as a science popularizer. It's interesting that you say Elon Musk. I don't, I can understand why he would be an inspiring figure. He's a very polarizing figure, I think. So I'm glad you can take something positive from that. All right, guys, we reached the end of this one. Do I have a favorite depiction of space in pop culture? It's a good question because I feel like as astronomers, a lot of times, some of us get very vocal about, you know, there's no sound in space because there's not, and things like that. But I'm also a huge science fiction fan. And I find it pretty easy in many ways to just totally suspend my disbelief because I'm there for the fun, for the story. And so it doesn't always bother me. When it bothers me the most is when they act both, you know, like the press around a movie or in pop culture acts like it's so accurate and then it's not. That bothers me. You know, like Just if you're not going to be accurate, that's fine, but don't pretend that you should get all these brownie points for being accurate when you're not. That being said, what is my favorite depiction? This is going to be such a cliche answer. I'm not. I'm trying to think if I have a better one. Um, yes, I totally agree. I think my love for sci-fi is one of the reasons that I wanted to study exoplanets in particular because, like, what are other planets like? Ties in directly with this concept of people living on other planets, aliens living on other planets. Okay. Pop culture. So I will say a book first. And I haven't read this book in a long time, so maybe it doesn't hold up. But I recall liking it quite a lot. And that was the book The Mote in God's Eye by Larry Niven. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this. Let me check this really quick. Gary Pornell and Larry Niven. And there's actually a sequel called The Gripping Hand. Was there a third one? I don't remember. Anyway, I did really like that one. Although I guess it's less depiction of space and more depiction of aliens that I thought was really great in that. I've read so many books that I'm trying to think of like which ones really, really got me the most. I mean, Dune, like, come on. There's a reason it's considered a modern classic. It's not even modern really anymore. I have bunnies, so I got some pet hair in here. Don't mind that. It's not part of the thing. I can't really muddle this now. There's ice in there. And I can't dump it out and get more ice because that was the last of my ice, I realized. Okay, as far as movies go, yeah, I actually really did like The Martian quite a lot. And that was one of those ones that I think did do a pretty good job of being accurate. I really liked Gravity a lot. Now there was a couple, things that weren't 100% accurate because at the end of the day, they're making a movie, not a documentary or a sci-fi or a science explainer. I mean, but I thought that they really captured some of the fears of being in space, and it's not even just low Earth orbit is a very hostile environment. So I thought they did a really good job of really portraying that in the movie. So that would be a good one for me. I'm trying to think if there's a TV show that comes to mind. I feel like I watch a lot of sci-fi movies and I read a lot of sci-fi books, but I don't watch as much sci-fi television. Like, for example, I haven't really seen much of Star Trek. I don't think I've seen any of the TV shows for Star Trek. I didn't watch Babylon 5. Like, these are like major sci-fi series I haven't seen. I did watch Firefly and I really liked it, but I also feel like I came to it a little bit too late. So I watched it after, long after it was canceled and after it kind of had this cult status. And so maybe my expectations were a little bit too high, but it was very good. I'm not saying it wasn't. I think that's a downside sometimes when you come late to a property like that. Yeah. And then, as a kid, Star Wars, of course, which is there's no science involved in any of that, but it's still very fun. And I think still really invokes a lot of the like coolness of space. And in fact, this comes up a lot. So not me, but my advisor works sometimes with circumbinary planets. So that is planets that orbit around a binary star system. The Tatooine, that is what people call it, the Tatooine type system. And that's such a lasting reference, this idea of the two sunsets and everything. So I think that's had a huge impact on, pop culture with space. Okay, I need to go get the other half of the lime. I'll be right back. Okay, here we go. More lime. You put the lime in the cooking. Okay, sorry. I know. I don't know if my mic picked that up. It's quite the interesting sound there with the squeezing lime. Okay, more gin. So I am just drinking a gin and club with lime and blueberry. It is a drink of my own making. It does not have a name as far as I know, but it's very good. And since you are in high school, Mr. Tara, you can do it without the gin. All right, and then here we go. Just our last bit of club soda. Perfect. Very spacey, right? You get where I was going with this, hopefully. Lemon sparkling water, so good. I'm such a millennial, but I do drink LaCroix. And I love it. I have a thing of black raspberry in my fridge right now. I just like the bubbles. To me, it makes it much better. My fiance does not like it. He likes his water still rather than sparkling. And as far as I know, doesn't really like the flavors all that much. He'll try them when I get them and then is like, okay, interesting. He also doesn't really like cold water. Like, he doesn't want ice in his water at a restaurant. I mean, he takes it. Like, he doesn't make them not give him ice, but I just remember because we first started dating and I would like, oh, you want a glass of water? And I would like be all nice and put ice in it and stuff. And he was like, I don't want that. What would be my dream organization to work for as a science educator? I mean, I think NASA, obviously. And in fact, I did apply to work with JPL. So if anyone from JPL is watching this, hire me as an engagement specialist as I'm drinking on air. But I think there would be a lot of really cool organizations to work for. I mean, a lot of universities. I mean, a lot of that is like, there's a lot of overlap. Excuse me. There's a lot of overlap between, science journalism and science communication. And I usually say science communication because I don't primarily consider myself like as a science journalist or wanting necessarily to do science journalism, but that also is there. There are a lot of things about that I like, and so I am considering like that kind of thing as well. And so that would be like a lot of universities would have, press offices, and they would want that kind of ability as someone not only to write the stories, because that's going to be a huge part of it, but also to promote them and, make graphics and design and stuff like that. So that's what I like to do. Not sure that I'm very good at it. I don't have any like formal training in like graphic design, photo editing, video editing. I do all of that like a lot. I had to teach myself. I use a program called Shotcut to edit my videos. I had to teach myself how to use Shotcut. I started out with Windows Movie Maker back in whenever year that existed. But I moved on to a little bit higher power program. It's an open source platform because it's free, because I don't really have that much money. Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. Yes, I use Shotcut, and that's been quite the learning curve. I think I'm getting better at it, but hard to say. And I had to teach myself how to use GIMP, which is, again, like a free open source thing that's like kind of similar to Photoshop. Maybe I've never actually used Photoshop, so I don't know how similar they are. Because again, Photoshop is expensive. Also, software these days, can I just go on a mini rant here that's not related to anything? But back in my day, you could buy software. Now it's all subscription based. Like, I don't want to keep paying you in perpetuity for this software that I'm using. Like, and it's insanely more expensive that way. Like, it just drives me insane. So as much as possible, I try to use free resources because I'm not really making any money from this. So it's not ideal to be spending money that much on my hobby. And I use the free version of Canva a fair bit. Stuff like that. I try and make it work. Accidentally. That's a big thing to fall into accidentally, making video content, as I'm sure you're realizing. But I don't know how helpful I can be, but I'm always happy to talk about, what I do in my process and what I know. I'm not trying to hoard any knowledge over here. And because not only do I use open source software, so benefiting greatly from all of the people that, freely put their time and energy and their expertise into creating this software, but I also am constantly Googling how to do things. And so then benefiting from people who took the time to write up how-tos and like tutorials and things like that, or answer people's questions on forums and stuff. So in my mind, it's all a big pay it forward type situation when it comes to making videos. I don't have any secret proprietary proprietary things. I feel like when I do these lives, I need to have like, I don't know, like like a thing to do, which right now is just drinking, which is probably not great, but I always feel like a little bit awkward just sitting here talking kind of to myself a little bit. That's not true. We're hanging out. We're having fun. It's pretty good. I'm enjoying this. Was that that was the end? Perfect. Ooh, yes. So I love TikTok. I think TikTok has been like, I don't think I would be anywhere near where I am today without TikTok. It's been huge in increasing my reach and my audience. What first inspired me to post on TikTok? Well, I, like so many people, used to hate on TikTok a lot. I'm not gonna lie, it was like app for kids. It was just people dancing. I didn't really know that much about it. It was, Chinese whatever spyware. And then COVID and lockdown. And I was a little bit bored and I downloaded it just to see because one of my friends was like, it's actually kind of funny. And I was like, okay, maybe. And I was pretty addicted pretty quickly. And I just created a personal account, which I still actually have. And I did a lot of dancing very badly. I'm not a good dancer, I should point out. Not only am I 6'4" and like just, I look like one of those like inflatable things in front of like a car salesman. But it was fun for me, and I really enjoyed doing it. And so I was like making my own just personal content, just like whatever I felt like. And I noticed that my audience was growing so much faster than it had in any. I've had social media for years and years and years, and I was like, this is crazy. And then I was like, this is an opportunity. And I had been thinking about starting a YouTube channel and doing science communication stuff. And I was like, I should do it on TikTok. And I actually sat down with my partner. He really helped me a lot through this. And like, I made a whole spreadsheet because this is just the kind of person I am. So I made a whole spreadsheet and identified like what my target audience was, what my goals were. We brainstormed names for a really long time. Like what was the name going to be? Settled on Nora's Guide to the Galaxy, which I'm super happy with. I'm really glad that we came up with that. I think it actually might have been his idea. It's been so long, it's hard to remember. But yeah, made a spreadsheet and like all of the different accounts I wanted to have. So, like Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, so I could reserve all the usernames. And some of them have different like username requirements. So like my Twitter handle can't be Nora's Guide to the Galaxy because it's too long. So it's like Nora Galaxy Guide or something like that. Yeah, so came up with all of that and like came up with a schedule of like what I maybe wanted to put out for content. And this is when I came up with the idea of doing the weekly videos, news videos, and then the Science Mondays and stuff like that. And so I did all of that before I even started anything. And then I just started posting on TikTok and YouTube, and here we are. Oh, absolutely. There have been so many times that I didn't know enough to make content about a topic. Also, a lot of my content nowadays, especially on TikTok, is just me answering questions. Because one, that like someone someone wants to know that, right? So like you don't have to like worry that you're making something that no one is going to be interested in. You already know there's a guaranteed at least one person that's going to be interested in it. And it's an easy way to kind of come up with ideas and really engage with the community, which is what I want to do. I don't want to just be like, nah at people. I really like talking to you guys and like, feeling like I have this community. And so if it's a question that I feel like I don't know how to answer, I usually just don't answer it because I get enough questions. I can just answer the ones I feel comfortable answering. Sometimes, I might point them in another direction if I know of a good resource, but a lot of times I just don't. And even topics that I feel comfortable with, I would say 95% of the time I go ahead and I research it before I make a TikTok, just to make sure that I'm not wrong or, not up to date on what the current status of things, because, I learned a lot of things in high school and university that's 15 to 20 years ago now. Like things have moved on. So I'm always trying to research my content before I post it, even if it's something I know about. And if it's something that I really know nothing about, sometimes I can actually research enough to go ahead and give an answer. So I think sometimes I worry. I sometimes call myself a Wikipedia conduit, and I worry that I'm not really bringing all that much to the table, since I do research beforehand. But I actually think that one of my skills that I do bring to the table is the ability to do that research and to actually find reputable sources and to understand them and bring them together into a 60-second response, which is not always easy to do. So yeah, that's kind of my process in making sure that I'm making content on topics that I feel like I'm not giving bad information about. Yes, the inspiration for my channel's name was definitely Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, one of my favorite book series. My fiance also really loves it, although he's only read the first one. And I was like, there's a whole thing. You can read more of them. And I just think it's really fun and was very, hopefully, descriptive of what the channel would be about, which is just me talking about space mostly. I think, sorry, I'm going back to the previous question. How far away from astronomy would I make content for? I do sometimes make content that's like more physics than astronomy, which is fine because, there's so much overlap between astronomy and physics. And my undergraduate is actually physics with, my track within the physics program was astro. But, when it comes to things like biology or something, like that would be a little hard for me. But I have done it. And I think the furthest I went away from astronomy was because someone asked me specifically about the noise that crystal glasses make when they clink together. And I had to do quite a bit of research to answer that one, but I did. I think I've already forgotten this. It's like, almost 2 years ago. So anyway. Yes, I actually used a Douglas Adams quote as the epigraph of my thesis. So I'm in deep when it comes to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I played the text game. I don't know if any of you know this, but there is a text-based video game for Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy that is notoriously difficult. And I played it when I was a kid, and I never got past the first line. It was so hard. Because also that was like, I had it on my computer at home, and we didn't have internet at home. So like, it wasn't like I could just like Google how to, Google didn't even exist back then. It's not like I could go to Ask Jeeves or Web Crawler and like find a walkthrough. I like had to figure it out mostly on my own, and it was so hard I couldn't do it. But then I actually have that game now on my computer. I downloaded it like a year or two ago because I was like so excited. I was like, I'm going to try this again, and I immediately got frustrated. Such a hard game. Anyway, if you are up for a challenge, try playing the text-based game of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I know TikTok is so addicting. I love that TikTok knows that they're so addicting that they have their whole like, you've been scrolling too long message, which I get a lot. And I always am like, why are you trying to kick me off your app? I am like, this is good. You should want me on your app. Don't kick me off. And you know what I do a lot of times when I get that message is I close TikTok and I open Reddit. So it's really not a net. It's like, for me, they're not actually encouraging me to get off my phone. They're just sending me to a different app, which is probably bad. And I should probably not do that. But I spend too much time on my phone. Yes. Papers, reading papers. I hate reading papers. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not fun. No, I don't know anyone that likes to read, to be honest. And And you always, well, I think there's like the tendency to be like, when I write papers, they're going to be so much easier to read, but my papers are just as hard to read as everybody else's because it's difficult to get all the information across you're trying to get across, and you really want to provide all this level of detail so that your work is supported by all these things and that people can replicate your work. And so you end up getting just way in the weeds, and it's horrible to read, and it's not fun to write either. So I would say kind of the standard way to approach your paper. One is read the abstract. So usually if there's like some big takeaway in the paper, they will put it in the abstract. And I would say that of the papers I read, and I read a lot of papers because I review Archive, which is where people post their papers every day. And there's, dozens of new papers every day just in the Astro PH. And of those, I read the titles, I find some ones I'm interested in. And of those, I read the abstracts. And like, of the ones that I read the abstracts, maybe like 1% of the time do I go on to read the paper. So when people are writing papers, they know that most people are only going to read the abstract. So they try to put the big takeaways in the abstract. So if there's something that you like, what is their main conclusion? Like, what is the one thing you should take away from the paper? It should be in the abstract. So if you read the abstract and you get the piece of data you need, then you're good. I mean, pretty much it. Now, unfortunately, sometimes you need more than that. So then you can try the introduction. The introduction can be very difficult to read, and a lot of times, I don't know if I'm just going to be like revealing my own biases here, but a lot of times the introduction is like less of a good introduction and more of a like checkbox of like acknowledging, like it's just a place because like you need to reference other works that have that you're building on, but maybe not like specifically. So like if you have an equation or something you're using from another paper, you're going to cite that paper when you use the equation. But there might be papers that you read that like just as a whole were really important to like your paper, but there's not like a one spot to cite it. So that kind of stuff is going to happen in the introduction. So it's like a mix between actually being in an introduction and being like a place to like accumulate all of the like relevant citations to make sure you're keeping, the referee happy, that you're not pissing off your colleagues, like that kind of thing. So sometimes it can be a bit of a citation soup. So, read through the introduction, but don't get too caught up on it. And then read the conclusion. And hopefully that will actually give you everything you need to know from a paper. A lot of times those in-between sections are really only going to be relevant if you are trying to like specifically pull something from the paper to use it yourself in your own work, or you disagree with them. You want to, see if something they did was sketchy or like you don't agree with it or whatever, that kind of thing. But like for an educational aspect, like if you're just trying to learn, introduction, conclusion, you should be pretty good. That's my advice. But yeah, unfortunately, it's not ever really a super fun process to read a scientific paper, in my experience. Thank you so much. I will officially get my diploma and be hooded on June 4th, which is a week from tomorrow. So that's really exciting. I'm pretty excited. My family is coming down to visit for my graduation, which will be really cool. And then I'm going to be done, which is weird. Very weird. Oh, if I had a magic wand, what would I fix about academia? That is a great question. Like, you've stumped me a little bit here. A lot of the things I would want to fix about academia are actually things that I want to fix about our society as a whole. So that's maybe cheating a little bit. So I won't answer those. I will say I would fix about academia the requirement, or like the quasi requirements, because I guess this isn't an official requirement, but it's basically a requirement to move so often and to have so many short-term positions. Because I think it's really, I mean, I understand the logic that, working at different institutions and with different people will give you a much broader network and will give you a broader base as a scientist. So I think that's like a really positive, but it's also just, it's so draining on people going through the system that, you go one place for your PhD, then you have to move and do a postdoc, then you probably have to move again and do a postdoc. And this whole time as a postdoc, you'll probably be applying for jobs, which are all going to be in different location. And, so you're expected to move several times. And if you don't have the flexibility to do that, then you might not be able to do it in academia. So I think that's one major thing that I would fix. It also makes it really difficult if you have a partner, because if they have a job, that job is probably tied to a location. And if you have to move for academia, then they either have to quit their job and find a new job, which is, again, they're only going to be there for a couple of years. So that's going to be difficult, or they are just going to not work. Or if they're also an academic, then they are going to be trying to find a job in the same place as you, which is like winning the freaking lottery, which is why a lot of universities do spousal hires to kind of help with this problem. But that also raises its own problems, because then you're trying to hire two people, and it's a whole mess. So that's a non-fun aspect of it. And even though I am not staying on in academia, so I guess I'm personally not going to have to deal with that, it's still like, I don't know, like all the friends I made in grad school are gone, like, and have been gone for like at least a year. And so it's just a little bit, it can make it difficult to make like just to put down roots. Blueberries are so good. I cannot fucking believe how well everything went with James Webb. It blows my mind. Especially, I mean, like, they've been trying to do James Webb for decades. And there was so many things that went wrong along the way. And like, obviously things are going to go wrong. Like, it's a big project that happens. You're going to have delays and stuff, but I mean, so many things went wrong. The one that's like coming to mind right now, and I don't remember exactly when this was or what the details were, but they were doing like a vibrational test of the telescope, and like some bolts fell off of it, which is, not great. And they couldn't figure out where the bolts came from, which is even less not great. And like, that's the kind of thing that I think of when I think of James Webb. And so, it seemed like it would be a minor miracle, one, for it ever to actually launch, because it just kept getting pushed back so much. But then once it launched, there were so many things that had to happen and go right. And you think, it had all these problems when it was here on Earth. Like, how is every single thing going to go right up in space? And it did. So they showed me. I should have had more faith in them. But I mean, also, like, getting to that point is why it was such a long process and why it got delayed so many times, because they had to be 100% sure, or 99.99999% sure, because you can never be 100% sure that it was going to work at that point, because there was just no possible avenues to fix it if it didn't work. So I was just flummoxed. I still am flummoxed, and so happy. Just yeah. And I cannot wait to see what we get from it, because just like, even the calibration images that we've gotten, it's just like, wow, really blows your mind. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. Ooh, that was not a blueberry. Oh, ice cream. I want this magic wand you keep mentioning. If NASA had infinite resources, what experiment would I want them to run? That's a good question. And I think, and this is very good news for me, because this was identified as the highest priority pretty much for NASA for their space-based telescope program. But I would want to be able to directly image exo-Earths, so small Earth-like planets in other planets and other systems in their habitable zones, which will give us so much more information than we have now, will really help us characterize these planets. With Webb, we'll be able to do a lot of atmospheric characterizations from transits, but like with direct imaging, we would get, reflectance spectra. It could tell us, about like the ground cover, or on like what the surface is made of and what the surface is like. And I think it's going to be really necessary for us to understand what terrestrial exoplanets are like, and to identify if any of them are truly Earth-like. And so I think that would be what I would do. It's a very difficult proposition, because we're talking about, we can do some direct imaging of exoplanets right now, but not in reflected light. So like if you think about the Earth, if you were looking at the Earth, most of the light coming off of it is reflecting the sun's light. Like the Earth isn't really emitting very much of its own light. But some planets do, and those planets are very large and very young gas giants. So those are the only ones that we can directly image right now. And we're looking at the light that they themselves are emitting and not reflected light from the star. And even that is very difficult to do. Requires contrast of like 10 to the minus 8 maybe between like the star and the planet. So you have to be able to black out the star and see this thing that's like, a billion times less bright than the star. So doing that with even fainter sources that only have light reflected from the star and generally getting closer into the star as well is hugely challenging. It's going to take so much time and money, but that is what I would do if I just had infinite NASA at my at my disposal. The latest news with the Mars helicopter. So Ingenuity is doing well. It is getting slightly less power these days because the Martian atmosphere is kind of filling up with dust a little bit because of the season. So seasonally in Mars winter, there's more dust in the atmosphere, less sunlight's getting through to the panels. And the helicopter is operating well beyond its planned lifetime. So it's not, at peak efficiency here anymore. But the team thinks that they basically changed the protocol on the software relating to the power about like when it kicks on and when it kicks off, so that hopefully it can maintain its battery with at least some level. It won't like totally drain its battery, and kind of make it through the winter. So hopefully that will happen. So it's doing well. It's back in communication with the rover. It did drop out due to low power a couple weeks ago, but yeah, it's doing well. I don't know what the plans are for any near future flights, because I think that would be questionable with the power available to it right now. Some planets glow. Yes, they do. I mean, technically all planets glow. So Earth is emitting some of its own light, and this light is not really visible light. It's going to be infrared light. So this is basically like a glowing coal type situation, right? So based on the heat that the planet has, it's going to be emitting some amount of light, and that light is typically in the infrared. And so it's going to be very, very minuscule for the Earth, especially compared to the reflected light. But for something like a, 5 Jupiter mass planet that's very young, because when these planets form, they're very hot and they cool down over time. And that they're very hot because they get all of this energy from collapsing, basically. Because if you think about gravitational potential energy, it's negative, right? So if you go from having material here and then you put it down into a planet, it's gotten a lot closer together, so it has a lot less gravitational potential energy, and so all that energy went somewhere and it goes into heating. Basically, it heats up the planet. And so these very young planets are very hot and they are emitting a lot of infrared light, and over time they cool down. So that's the story with glowing planets. Yes, I think, but not right now. But this is hopefully will be accomplished by the next flagship telescope after James Webb, which was identified in the recent Astro 2020 Decadal Survey, which came out in November. And they basically recommended that the top priority for the next flagship mission should be this UV optical infrared telescope that would have the capability to directly image exoplanets in reflected light, which would be visible light. So yes, but we're talking decades from now. Yeah, are they able to find rogue planets from the globe? Sorry. Bit off more than I could chew there with those blueberries. So, no, I don't think we have found any rogue planets because of their infrared light. Because, like I said, this light diminishes over time, and so really, without having like a young star to look around it and see if it has planets, you would be kind of really stabbing in the dark, and you would have to, kind of fortuitously find these right when they were very young. Also, they're not very bright. They're very dim, so it would be extremely difficult to find. I mean, we found free floating brown dwarfs down to like Y dwarf, which is like getting close to planetary sizes, but that's really hard to do. So not right now. I think we need a little bit more sensitivity, and then maybe we could start finding these, um, you know, planetary mass objects, because they would not technically be planets because they're not orbiting a star. And oh, I just totally lost my train of thought. Well, anyway, the so most of the Y dwarfs, we know a few Y dwarfs now, and they were mostly detected by the WISE survey, which is I forget what it stands for, but it's an infrared survey. So looking for these very faint objects in infrared light. So is that gravitational potential energy that I talked about, is that the reason that the Earth's core is hot? That's an excellent question. It's actually part of the reason. It is contributing to the heat of the internal core of the Earth. But actually, the majority of that heat is from radioactivity. So there's actually elements in the early solar system that the Earth formed from that are radioactive, that decay over time, and that produces heat. And those are basically heating the inside of the Earth, in addition to a little bit of gravitational potential energy and some other minor sources of heat. But the predominant source of heat for the Earth's core is radioactivity. I'm trying to remember. It's like iron 6. No, I should know this. Aluminum 26. Anyway, I forget what the exact elements are. I didn't study for this. It's actually one of the things that, like, I really like doing lives, but like I said, one, I feel kind of awkward when I do them. But two, like, I always want to like double check everything I say before I say it. And I can't do that during a live. So you're getting what I think right off the top of my head. Do exoplanet scientists have to know a lot about geology? Yes, depending on what they do. I do not, because I do exoplanet dynamics, and I do exoplanet dynamics in such a way that I really only consider the planets as point masses. So I pay zero attention to the internal processes of a planet. But that's not to say there are not dynamical applications of that, because tides, for example, is a big source, like a big thing that you need to account for in some dynamical situations. And that 100% comes down to internal processes of the planets. Now we have various ways of approximating this, which you don't need to necessarily be able to do, the geology yourself, but it certainly, comes into play. But in the like broader field of exoplanets, there is a lot of geophysical sciences. So in fact, at my university, at the University of Chicago, there's the Department of Astronomy and Astrophysics, which is where I am. And there's an exoplanets group there. So there's currently 3 professors that do exoplanets. I think there's a 4th that is going to be starting in next fall, maybe. And then there's also the Geophysical Sciences Department, and they also have exoplanet scientists in their faculty. I can think of at least like 3 off the top of my head. So there's a lot of overlap. And we actually have a joint journal club. There's an exoplanet journal club that astronomy and geophysics both come to if they're interested in exoplanets, because it's a very interdisciplinary field. I think that's an exciting thing about astrophysics or about exoplanets, but it's also a very challenging thing, because it's difficult to become an expert in one field, nevertheless in 2, and it's very important, I think, to have these cross field ties and to build networks that include geophysicists if you're an astronomer, or include astrophysicists if you're a geophysicist. Yes, that is. I mentioned this before, but yes, on my vacation, my fiance popped the question. So soon to be doctor and doctor. Thank you. And it matches my shirt, so. Do I have a favorite exoplanet? That's a good question. I don't know that I have a favorite exoplanet, but I do have a favorite exoplanet system, which probably makes sense because I am an exoplanet dynamicist, and I study planet-planet interaction. So you need systems for that to happen. And my favorite system is HR 8799, which I just think is really cool. It is a directly imaged system. So we actually have images of the system. So these are these really young, hot, big planets that I was mentioning earlier. And they're pretty far from their star. And they're in resonance, which is a dynamical phenomena, which is really cool to actually see that playing out. And we've been observing this system for long enough that we can actually like see the planets kind of orbiting. So there's like a movie that someone put together from all the observations of it, where you can really actually see the planetary motion, which I just think is so cool. And it's a pretty like wide planetary system, which is not surprising because for direct imaging, kind of being farther away from the star helps. The closer you are to that incredibly bright source, the harder it is to find something with its own light. So I think it's really interesting for kind of this idea of this like large outer edges of the system having these giant planets, which is not at all how our solar system is, because we just have 30 AU. Neptune is the farthest planet that we have, and it's smaller, I think, than the HR 8799 planets. So that's my favorite one. But yes, shards of glass at supersonic speeds. I don't know particularly what you're talking about, but that wouldn't surprise me. It feels like every time exoplanets, like planetary scientists kind of tried to estimate what the surface of an exoplanet is like, it always seems like some sort of hellscape. Like, oh, it rains iron here. Like, oh, okay, great. That sounds lovely, but exciting. My partner is a recovering astrophysicist. So he used to be, when we met at a exoplanets conference. So he used to be one of those astronomers that was looking for these directly imaged exoplanets. So he used to do that. But he was not enamored of doing astronomy. And so he is now a data scientist. And he works here in Chicago, which has been great. Oh, all right. It's been an hour. Well, it's actually been a little bit over an hour. And I have to cook dinner tonight, so I might need to go. But it's been so much fun. We should do this again. I need to do more lives. I'm just bad about it. I don't feel like I planned my life that far in advance. But if I think of it, I will let you know if I want to do another one, and you can come hang out with me again. This has been so much fun. Thank you so much for joining me. And thank you so much for all the very kind things and all your questions and just coming and being part of this. I love all of the galactites. I am so honored to be part of this community. And yeah, I hope to keep seeing you. All right. Bye, guys.